friends. Happy Monday. Welcome back to another week of distance learning with Civics. Um, just wanted to point out that, again, remember last week it was expected that you take this assessment here where we were wrapping up our unit about the origins of American government. If you haven't done so already, please make sure you do take that. It's a Google form. Some of you that have taken it, if you did not do such a great job grade wise, I allowed you to retake it by unlocking your test or assessment. If you haven't already checked that out and you want to change your grade up, that is a way to do that. So take a look at that. All right, so for today, here's what you're going to be doing. You're going to start with a journal prompt where you take a look at a video. And it has to do with opening up the country. Should we be opening up the country? Should we keep it on lockdown? What are the benefits and risks of both? And what's your opinion? There's no right or wrong answer. Again, it's your opinion, but you do want to make sure that you write using complete sentences and you write a nice, well written, coherent paragraph. One person has already done that. Thank you, Leandre. Nice job. Okay. And then the meat of the lesson is going to be this week, we're going to be looking at the Constitution. And this assignment is rather lengthy. So it is going to be the one and only assignment besides the journal prompts that you get this week. So on Thursday, you will not have a new lesson. You may have a journal prompt, but you're not going to have a new lesson. You're only going to have to finish this anatomy of the Constitution if you haven't already done so. Your agenda's here, your journal prompt, which you're going to do above. The reading, which is 4 pages long. Like I said, it's rather lengthy. And your questions. And there's several parts to this as far as questions go, where we check for your understanding. Again, it's lengthy, but this is the one and only lesson you have for this week. Okay. And the one other thing I wanted to point out is I am available during our regular meeting time, which would be on B days from 1:30 to 2:30. In this, if you click on this link here, it's also located under our Classroom Resources tab where it says Civics Google Meet link. So if you need me for live help, please click on that link during our class meeting time. You can, of course, always email me, and if you want to set up a video conference, we can always do that too. But Anatomy of the Constitution. Here we go. Again, this is 4 pages long. And it breaks down each part of the Constitution. There's the preamble and then 7 sections. The preamble is that famous "We the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, do ordain and establish," yada, yada, yada. And it goes on. And there are several important ideas in that preamble, which we will look at more extensively next week, but just know that it's there. And then the rest of the sections called articles tell everybody, hey, this is how we're going to do business here in the United States. Okay, so Article 1 creates Congress, creates legislative branch, the lawmaking body of the United States. And specifically, it created both, and we learned about this a week or two ago, the Senate, which has equal representation for all states, regardless of how big or small the state is, 2 senators per state, and the House of Representatives, which is based on population. So the more people you have living in your state, the more representatives you will have. And I've given this example before, but in Connecticut, we have 5 total representatives, whereas in California, a much more populous state, they have 53 representatives. Right. And then it gives the breakdown of some of the more notable powers of Congress. Congress is responsible for collecting taxes and paying debts. And of course, it makes rules of how to become a citizen, uh, declare. A lot of people don't necessarily remember this, but Congress is the only one that declares war. That is not the president's job, although many people may think that it's the president solely that is responsible for that. That's not true. Okay, speaking of the president, Article 2 creates the executive branch. And the executive branch is responsible for making sure that all the laws that the Congress uh, has made are actually executed and followed through. Um, so if you know the a law was put in place that said, well, we'll come up with a ridiculous law. Anybody wearing polka dotted ties shall be put into jail for no less than 5 years. Well, then the executive branch is going to be responsible for creating an agency that enforces that law, right? And here are some of the presidential powers. I'm not going to read each and every one to you, but the president is the commander in chief of the armed forces. He or she also uh, can grant pardons to any federal criminal offenses. So if there is a criminal that the president doesn't think should be in prison, he can pardon that person. And it goes through some other ones. Of course, another one is making a State of the Union address. He does that yearly. We looked at that before we left for our quarantine. Okay, the next section or article is Article 3, which, of course, creates the third and final branch, the judicial branch, the Supreme Court. Okay. Other sections, Article 4 is all about states' rights. Article 5 is all about how the Constitution can be amended or changed if it needs to be. That's the beauty of the Constitution. It is not just a fixed document. The forefathers were really smart in realizing that, hey, things change over time, and something that was good for the country 250 years ago may not be great for the country now. Um, and then you've got Article 6 and Article 7. Take a look at those as well. Goes through the amendment process. How specifically can we change the Constitution if we need to? Um, it has been changed or amended 27 times total, um, and you're going to see here it is a not an easy process. You have to have Congress vote, not just a majority of them vote to have something changed in the Constitution, 2/3 of them, and then states you have to have 3/4, way more than 51%, or a majority, simple majority, to agree to changing and ratifying these changes in the Constitution. Which is why it's only been done 27 times in the last 200 plus years. All right, so those are the 4 pages of reading. And then there's, again, several sections that you are expected to do. Again, this is the lesson for the entire week. So you have lots of time to get this done. So don't freak out. Do a little bit at a time. The first section is a very easy vocabulary match. So match ratify to the description, and you would write in the correct letter. So ratify is to approve or pass an amendment would be ratify, and that's letter D. So I would write D in there. Execute, number 2, is matches up with carry out a law. So I'd write B in there. Okay, so you get the idea. I'm not going to go through each and every one. Multiple choice, again, pretty self-explanatory. Pick which, or fill in which letter in the blank is the correct answer for the question. So, we'll do question 6 together. How many senators are in the U.S. Senate? Hopefully you know that there are 2 per state. There's 50 states total, so 2 times 50 is 100, and C would be the correct answer. I'd just write it in there. All right, so a couple of multiple choice questions there. From there, you have this thing that says separate separate powers. So there's an icon that represents each of the 3 branches. I want you to move the icon to where it's next to the statement for the powers it has. So Legislative branch is the first one, we'll say. All right. Legislative branch, what does it do? Does it write the bills that become laws? Well, we know the legislative branch makes the laws, so that probably is where we want to match it up. But let's look at the other ones. They make sure the laws are carried out and enforced. Oh, we know that's the executive branch, so we'd move that there. All right, so move the legislative branch next to this statement 10. Maybe do it better than I did, but you get the idea. Okay. That's how you do section C. I told you there's several sections. This is a long one. Article or section D, article matchup. Again, using the reading, you want to match up where these icons would go. So we'll do articles 1 through 3 as an example. And again, you hopefully remember that Articles 1 through 3 created Article 1, remember, created the legislative branch. Article 2 created the executive branch. And Article 3 created the judicial branch. So we're probably looking for a statement that says created the three branches. So let's see if we can find that here. Creates the three branches of the U.S. government under number 15. I would just move that over to here. So it's next to that. And then there you go. You're good to go as far as that goes. All right. And then you would go through the rest. Again, use the reading to help you. Okay. We have moving right along. E, table of contents. Here, I want you to fill in the blanks using this word bank. Okay. So the preamble, what is the Constitution? Here's what the preamble, so each section it's going to say answers these questions. So the preamble we know is the introduction, so it's going to answer the questions about what the Constitution does and what is the blank of the government. So we would look here and we would go through the word bank and say, oh, purpose. Purpose is the word that's missing, and we'd fill it in and then we'd move on. Article 1. Well, what questions does Article 1 answer? And we know that, again, Article 1 has to do with the legislative branch, the lawmaking body of the United States. So we got to figure out what blank would go in here. And it says, how does the blank branch create laws? What power do the states have? We'd look at our word bank and we'd see legislative. Legislative must go into this blank here. And we would go ahead and fill in legislative. All right, so that's the idea there. And one last section. You're going to fill in, you're going to read each statement and you're going to fill in whose job it is, the executive branch, the legislative branch, or the judicial branch. And again, you're going to use the reading to help you with this. So who's in charge of printing the money? Is it the executive branch, the legislative branch, or the judicial branch? And if I'm not sure, I'd go back up to the reading and I'd look at the jobs of the legislative branch to start. Powers of Congress: collect taxes, borrow money and pay debts, make new rules, trade, coin money, and punish counterfeiters. Coin money, that's kind of like printing money, right? So, based on that, I would put in an L for legislative. Number 2, who enforces the laws? Well, I don't even have to look back at this. I know it's the executive branch, so I'd write in E. Decide what a law means. Well, that's somebody interpreting how a law should take place, right? They're making a judgment, so that would be judicial branch. And you would go through the rest here. Okay? And that's how you do the assignment. I want to remind you guys that I am, as I said, available for live help 1:30 to 2:30 when our class meets. Just go to the Civics Google Meet link, click here, and I'll be sitting there waiting to answer any and all questions you have. You can, of course, always email me or message me. Many of you have done that as well. Should you have some issues or having trouble getting the assignment done, or just have a question or two, or just want to say hello. And that's really it. Please, please, please reach out should you need any help at all. And thanks for watching, guys.